everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. This is our post-Thanksgiving podcast. I'm very thankful to have had a Thanksgiving in which things mostly went pretty fine. Traffic was okay. Family was great to see. Conversations were mostly apolitical. Alex Navarro, how are you? Welcome back.
Thank you. Yes, I returned yesterday from the West Coast. Brad can verify this because we spent time in the same physical space.
I saw a human being in person. It was weird.
Nice.
I know. It's the one you see every week on the internet, but now I'm here in your face.
Well, sometimes we have to just confirm you're not some kind of AI-generated Alex Navarro.
If an AI generated me, they need to tweak that algorithm a little bit.
It's perfect. It's great. Toe to tip, Alex Navarro. How was your time out there? Fine?
It was good. Yeah. I mostly spent time with family, hung out, did the Thanksgiving stuff, saw my little niece and nephew. My niece turned 6 while I was out there.
Aww.
She's getting very big.
That's what they do.
It is.
How dare they?
I know, right? And I also, I actually went and hung out with this guy, Tom Gaffey, who is the guy who has been the manager at that theater that I grew up at since like the 1970s. And I had not caught up with him in a long time. And so we had lunch and we just he took me around the building and showed me like their new audio equipment and all the stuff they have there. And also my old drum kit, which I donated there like years ago.
It's still there?
It's still there. They use it in the upstairs practice studio, which I guess is where someone gives music lessons. And so it's pretty beat up, but it's still there. And hey, I donated to them with total understanding that they were going to beat the shit out of this thing, and apparently they did. So
that's great. That's fantastic. The same symbols? Oh, the symbols.
I think those are gone at this point. Those have probably been broken. I didn't leave them too many symbols. I left them a couple, but everything else I think has just been like donated from various people.
That's super nice. Brad Shoemaker's here.
Hello.
Hi.
How many leftovers are still left over?
Oh, I mean, for me, we had very little. We had almost, I would say, a shockingly, disappointingly low level of leftovers. So this year we tried to do the thing where we bought containers for people to take home food in. But this year also, we know some very nice friends and family. They brought their own reusable containers. So a lot of stuff went. We went with 2 turkeys because they didn't have a big enough single turkey. So we made 2 turkeys, which is nice because you get double the drumsticks. So double the wings.
That's how it works.
But yeah, I don't think we wound up with any carved turkey leftovers out of 2 13 to 14 pound turkeys ish. I know. And
what good is a holiday without leftovers?
My wife said she's just going to buy a turkey.
Good.
For us.
Excellent.
And a turkey for us.
Excellent.
Extra turkey.
They don't have them in the supermarket all year round. She said, now they're in there. I'm just going to go buy a damn turkey. We're going to eat some turkey.
Yeah, you could do that.
Leftover turkey is one of the better leftovers.
It's arguably the main appeal of the bird itself.
I mean, I like a fresh turkey.
Turkey's okay, but I feel like it is maybe slightly overrated by virtue of the fact that it has the holiday attachment to it.
Oh, it's just so easy to screw up.
Yeah,
so easy to deliver dry turkey, and there's nothing worse than dry turkey.
Do you guys all just use that Alton Brown turkey recipe from that's been going around for 15 years?
I've never cooked a turkey in my life.
My Thanksgiving turkey was a chicken from Costco. So
okay, great.
And last year it was a duck.
I remember that. That's
the market down the street.
Sam didn't end up flying out with me, so she got food from a local restaurant, and they accidentally gave her twice as much food as she ordered.
Fantastic.
So she did have a lot of leftovers, just not intentionally.
Were they there when you got back? Yeah, seriously. Did you get to have some?
No, she ate it all by the time I got home, but she had also planned to make a bunch of spaghetti that was supposed to be where the leftovers ended up being. And so there was a bunch of leftover spaghetti for me when I got home, and that was fantastic.
Was it just spaghetti, or was there like a sauce?
It was a meat sauce and vegetables. Okay. It was delicious.
Okay, great, fantastic.
Yeah, it was just raw noodles.
Was it just?
They didn't even salt the water.
Speaking of raw noodle, we took a break from Thanksgiving leftovers to eat homemade pho one night.
Oh man!
And that straight up had raw noodles in it that we had to cook.
I'm more of a ramen guy, but good pho is hard to beat.
Yeah, it was pho hard to make.
My understanding is yes.
Okay.
The broth in particular takes forever, and it's a fine art.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've had pho in a long time.
Well, pho that you got to get some.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good pho pun, but they're just too easy or too hard. They're either just it's right there, or it's
either up on the tee or like it is a 90-mile-an-hour screwball.
Yeah. So I'm like kind of just not going to even try it because I'm going to pho it up.
You did it.
What?
You hit it off the tee. Good job.
Good. So yeah, we had the turkey cranberries, a lot of pies. We got a rhubarb pie, which I'm always a fan of having around in the house.
Rhubarb, underrated.
It's good pie. What else did we have on the table? We had yams with the mushrooms on them. Not mushrooms.
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry. Yams with the marshmallow.
What are you doing here?
The marshmallow candied yams. I guess that's what people call them.
Candied yams, yeah.
Aren't my favorite, but are very good. Somebody, of course, brought we had a green bean casserole. We had regular mashed potatoes, which I didn't even realize until the end of the day. So I usually carve the turkey. I love carving a turkey. Like, it's one of my favorite things about Thanksgiving.
You got the electric knife?
No. I love. Okay, this might sound a little.
You prefer an analog knife.
Yes, that's right. You can really feel the warmth. This might sound like macabre, but I just like separating all the joints, like finding where the joints meet, doing a nice separation, and then separating like the thigh and the leg, and like breaking apart that joint to get nice cuts of everything, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'll take the whole breast part off and then slice the breast in one chunk, and then slice the breast. I enjoy the part of basically butchering this animal to see if, like, okay, every year I do it, I kind of learn a little something new. I'll crack the joints and then I'll use a knife, and the whole thing. And this time I got to do it twice because we had two turkeys. So I'm usually standing during a lot of the Thanksgiving. I didn't even set a table seating for me because so I didn't notice there were mashed potatoes until the mashed potatoes came back to get put away, and I was like, wait, there's mashed potatoes? And then I just ate them out of the serving dish.
Excellent.
And yeah, that's kind of why there were no leftovers, because I kind of just ate everything out of the serving dish. Stuffing in the bird, out of the bird stuffing. Some people don't like it in the bird. Some people,
I think I generally prefer it to be out of the bird.
Out
eventually.
of the bird. Okay. Well, like without the juices. Without the juices.
Yeah.
Just got to be careful.
Cornbread.
Got to bust out the thermometer.
with the stuffing.
Yes.
Yeah, I like a crispy stuffing. I like when it gets a little burnt.
A little crunch. A little bit of crunch goes a long way.
Best thing I've ever had for cooking a turkey has been the in-bird thermometer, the digital one that just sits on the outside of the oven. Mm-hmm. And I just let it go. I think it's 161 always. And that's when I take it out and let it sit. I put the little tinfoil hat on it. Again, that I don't brine the turkey anymore. I did that once.
Don't want your turkey getting any ideas.
Yeah, tinfoil hat stops the turkey from thinking, why am I? What's
the government's trying to get inside your turkey's brain, man.
Yeah. Yeah, good Thanksgiving. We had two of them. One, I went to my cousin's on Long Island. Traffic was exactly what you'd imagine it was going to Long Island. The other one was at home. So double Thanksgiving, triple turkey. Good times. Good times.
Nice.
Yeah.
We had mashed potato pancakes last night.
Oh, wait, is a mashed potato pancake different than like a latke?
I don't know. This was just let's form these mashed potatoes into a patty in the pan and fry it.
Okay, that sounds like a latke. Do you put any onions in it?
No, this was
just pure potato.
Straight potatoes.
That still sounds all right to me.
I love a mashed potato. I think potato might be my favorite food.
It's a very versatile vegetable.
Like, I love potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Any form of a potato.
Spoken like a true Irishman.
Name any kind of prepared potato, and I think I love it. I like Hasselback. What'd you say?
I feel like I find the baked potato is probably the least popular preparation generally.
Baked potatoes is amazing. Some sour cream on that thing, butter. I'll just take it with salt.
Some chives.
I feel like I know a lot of people that are not fans of baked potatoes.
Whenever my grandmother would take me to Wendy's, she always got that baked potato. That was her thing.
Baked potato. I like potato chips. I like I love when somebody wants to try and serve me a what is it? Those twice baked potatoes where you you bake it, and then you scoop it all out, then you mash it up, and then you put it back in and bake it again. If you're going to take the time to do that,
good Lord.
Hopefully added a whole lot of fat to it in the process.
Just dump butter and cream in that thing and stuff it back in the potato. Yeah, potato, great food. No, way up there.
All right. We did it.
I was looking at my mom's broccoli casserole recipe because I swear this is going to be the year I'm finally going to post it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never thought to look at the ingredients before in that stuff, and I was like, oh, wow, that's what I've been eating all these years.
Is it just cream?
Oh, my God. It's like every kind of fat you can possibly think of to add to an ostensible vegetable dish.
Yeah. But it's delicious, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just got to portion it out.
It's the hit of the holiday every year.
We don't make a gravy because I just can't. Like, a decade ago plus, I made my own gravy, and I have not had a gravy since. That was it. It just took making it once to be like, oh, that's what this is, huh? Oh, this is just pan drippings and fat, and oh, I used to drink this, like, just out of the container. I need to go sit down and go to confession or something. I need to go to artery confession and confess my sins.
I don't think that's how you get rid of cholesterol, but
not according to my doctor.
Helps.
Yeah, I've done cholesterol.
Maybe they're handing out bowls of oatmeal at the confessional door.
Just shove this. Dude, give me 3 Quaker Oats and 4 Farinas, and and call you in the morning. Our Farinas. All right, we've got some video games to go through this week. We're going to talk about Evil West. We're going to talk about that Resident Evil DLC. Poor old Rose. We're going to talk about Pentiment, and we're going to talk about Need for Speed Unbound, a game. Unbound, a game that's not supposed to come out for a couple of days here, December 2nd, but due to some wily machinations Alex Navarro has. Let's start with Need for Speed Unbound. Alex, how did you get your hands on Need for Speed Unbound?
It was remarkably simple, Vinny. Just one neat trick.
They don't want you to know about?
You just have to pre-order the special edition.
Oh, no, they definitely want you to know about it.
Yeah. Well,
are you sure? Are you sure,
that's
Brad?
what I'm uncertain of, because I knew this game existed, and I knew it was coming out, because they announced it earlier this year, I believe. And I had completely forgotten about it by the time I started seeing people, I think yesterday, being like, hey, EA just dropped that fucking Need for Speed game if you get the special edition or whatever. And so if you have EA Play, or you buy the extra edition, which gives you some extra cars and a few other things, I think, you can play right now.
Are they calling it a beta or anything like that?
No.
Or they're just saying play early?
I mean, it's the EA Play thing, which is technically quote-unquote early access, but it's not early access in the we are still working on it tense.
Okay.
More of the we want you to give us your money now so you can just have it a few days early kind of thing.
And where did you get it?
Xbox.
Okay, because I'm looking on Steam.
Yeah.
And I can't see if they have they have the EA Play option, but on the $80 version, because this game is $70 across the board.
It is $70 across the board.
Wait, is the $80 version really called the Palace Edition?
It sure is.
Amazing. I don't even know what that means, but that's amazing.
I don't either, and I've been playing this game for a couple of hours. I don't really know what that refers to.
So I'm not sure if you do get that early access in the Palace Edition on the PC.
Maybe not. You definitely do on Xbox, and I think you do on PS5 also.
Okay. I'm just not seeing. Oh man. Oh, look at all these things in the Palace Edition.
So here's the thing. It didn't say anything when I was downloading it. It did not say you get to play it on X date. It's just like you get to play it early.
Okay.
But it's like that is all the wording you get about it.
Yeah, and there are no Steam reviews on Steam right now. So yeah. Anyway, you played it. Tell me about it.
I'm playing it.
Yeah.
And so this is Criterion, or the version of Criterion that currently exists. Criterion has gone through several iterations in recent years, but it is a co-developed project, I believe, with the Codemasters people, because Codemasters is now part of EA, as you may remember. And getting this surprise dropped kind of like this, and maybe it wasn't actually a surprise, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but it does feel like this kind of caught some people off guard. I kind of feared the worst. I kind of feared like, oh, maybe this is not so good.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me, it hasn't even been that long since they announced it, has it?
It was this year, I think.
It definitely was. It was only like, maybe I'm wrong. I feel like it's not been more than 3 or 4 months since they even announced this thing.
I think it was during the summer, but I don't remember exactly where and when.
I also feel like it was kind of a surprise drop on the news. I think I remember we were going over the news and we were like, "Hey, this is also out there. This trailer for EA." I don't think it was during a press conference.
Well, it leaked a few days before the official announcement.
Oh, okay,
which was part of it.
Yes. Okay. Right. And so this game has what kind of art style?
Okay, there's a couple of things I don't necessarily love about it. And one of the things is the way it tries to blend art. The core game looks like a new Need for Speed game. When you're driving around, the cars, they look fairly realistic. It's a big open world city you're driving around in. Lakeshore is what they call it, but it's basically supposed to be Chicago. The character art is all cell shaded in a very stylized way. And there are these little flares, is what I would call them. These visual effects that will come off the car when you pull off a successful drift or you use NOS, that I'm going to say, it's not this, because you wouldn't need to do this in a video game. There's like the technology doesn't apply here, but this is the closest analog I can draw is something like rotoscoping, where it looks like it is hand-drawn stuff kind of exploding out of the car that looks realistic.
Looks realistic. Okay.
Yeah. Because the cars themselves look realistic. They are real cars.
But is it like the stuff I was seeing in just video of it made it look like there's also like when you peel out the smoke looks cell shaded.
Yes, all those like visual flares that come off the car, that is all kind of like hand drawn style.
Okay. How's it working for you? You said you didn't love it, but
I like the car stuff. I do think the car stuff has some neat pizzazz to it, and I don't use that term lightly. The character art is a little less interesting to me. I think, honestly, if they were going to go that route, I kind of wish they had done the entire game in a more stylized way, because the characters just look a little last gen, if you know what I mean. Like, it looks like the way you would apply cell shading in an early PS4 or Xbox One game, because you're not harnessing the horsepower, but you want it to give it a distinctive look.
Some of this video I'm seeing, I think I get what you're saying. I'm going to call this art style with the drawing on top of the existing art a very Mitchell's versus the Machines, very kind of Spider-Man.
That is mean to those things.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yes,
it's got this.
Yeah, I can see it.
We're Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse style of, okay, we're going to add like the BAM or this kind of out of style, almost sketching on top of this photorealistic thing.
It is totally going for that. Yeah. It is not as effective as those things it is referencing, but I think on the car stuff at least, it does make things stand out a little bit.
I kind of like looking at this footage. I kind of see what you I know you were talking about the characters, but I see what you mean about like maybe the whole game should have been more stylized in this way, because like they're still just going for fidelity and realism on the actual cars and the city and the general look of the world, and then having these crazy, like very flamboyant graphical effects popping around it. It just seems like it clashes a little bit, where like maybe the whole visual treatment in general should have had like a layer of this to make it all kind of mesh better.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel completely out of step with each other, but I think the character stuff is where it really, you notice it, because the characters just don't look that interesting. And a lot of what they're doing to try and prop that up a little bit is it has a almost like Def Jam Fight for New York style, like, here's all this licensed gear you can unlock and outfit your character in. Like Vans is just in there, you know, like actual clothing brands have stuff in here. And, you know, it seems like there's a pretty good variety of that stuff. Like the character creator, it's not super deep, but like there's enough there that you can make like a fairly, you know, distinctive looking character. But my only real beef with the game, like the art style stuff aside, the only real beef, and this is not a thing that is uniquely worse than just about any other game in this franchise, but the dialogue and personality stuff, the attitude, is not great. It's not horrible. It's not unbearable, but it is definitely like a little, hey, we're talking street, but in a very T for teen kind of way. There's a little bit of cussing, but not that much. And also, there are some specific line reads that I feel like that feel like placeholders that somehow found their way into the final game. Like people like stuttering through sentences or just not getting any of the emotional content they're supposed to be delivering behind the line type stuff.
Okay. I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know. This one...
Yeah.
But the mechanics and the gameplay modes seem fine?
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten terribly deep into it. I just started booting it up today. I played for a few hours. It's an open world city. They start you out like you're driving to places on the map. You go, you do your street races. You build up heat as you are driving around, both in the actual races and also just in the open world. Once your heat meter starts reaching certain levels, the cops will get a lot more aggressive about trying to chase you down. They will do it during races, but they will also do it in the open world if your heat level is too high and you have to lose them. I haven't tried the online multiplayer stuff yet, so I don't know if there's any like cops versus street racers, like, you know, team versus team type stuff. But it seems like at least in the story mode, you're just playing as the racers. But the actual driving feels fine, is the thing. Like it has that feel of like a pretty good Criterion or a pretty good Need for Speed game. Like it's not very weighty, but it is very drifty in the way that those games I feel like are kind of supposed to be. And I feel like I got a pretty good handle on how to handle the cars like quickly.
Are the activities interesting at all? I mean, like, is there anything out of the ordinary to do out in the open world, or is it pretty much stuff you've seen?
I have a feeling there might be more that I haven't seen yet, but everything I've seen so far has mostly just been street races. And you know, the AI is reasonably challenging. You are definitely collecting more cars as time goes along, and obviously getting more gear for your character. But that seems to be the main thrust of it.
Are there other players running around your world?
I have not seen any. It's possible that maybe there's some icon I missed that is like, hey, here's an online player you could challenge or something, but I haven't noticed that yet.
Do you have a character that is like a character, or are you
yes,
a car?
You create a character. There is a story, though it is, I mean, from what I've seen so far, is a pretty light one. It's literally just like your foster dad runs a garage and you and your sister are getting up to antics and then street racing.
Is it like Racing for Pinks kind of thing? Are we past Fast and Furious?
No Racing for Pinks that I've seen, though I'm sure that there will be, like, you can win this person's car races at some point. I don't know. But everything up to this point has been, some races have buy-ins. You have to have that cash stored up before you can get into those. The free ones, they're lower reward, but obviously no risk. The buy-in ones, and basically, like, you get a certain amount of money depending on where you place. So obviously first place gets the most. I've had a hard time getting first place in some of the harder races, but you're still getting far more than what you put in if you get like second or third.
Are we still Fast and Furious?
That is a good question. Is Fast and Furious even still Fast and Furious anymore? It has kind of gone off into a new world all of its own.
Yes.
I think a little bit of that stuff has kind of worn off now that the Fast and Furious movies themselves are basically dumb guy Mission Impossible movies. And I say that with love. I do love them. But yeah, I don't think the street racing culture that was kind of at the height when those movies were coming out and when like Need for Speed was at its peak is the same. I don't think it has the same level of cachet.
Are they racing any electric cars?
Not that I have seen, though. I'm not saying there aren't any in there. I just haven't seen any yet. Okay.
I wonder how those are doing in the like I don't know, street race scene. They've got pep, right?
Yeah. I don't know if they have that kind of pep. I don't know how NOS goes with an ion battery.
No, but you just make, I don't know, tweak the I have no idea. But they have some any I don't have an EV, but anyone I've been in, the acceleration on the torque on those things seems ridiculous.
Yes.
In a way that
they do just kind of tend to take off on you.
And they do just kind of go. So yeah, I don't know.
I think the top speed might be where you have a problem there. But yeah, so the thing I'll say about this is that I don't know if this is a $70 good game, at least out of my initial impressions. Yeah. But I don't feel like it is the abject disaster I was kind of girding myself for as a game that feels like it just kind of slipped in under the radar as an EA product at $70. You know what I mean?
So to fill in a detail from earlier, this game was barely announced more than 6 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Was it really that short?
This game was announced on October 7th, and it is still November.
What are they doing?
So maybe. I mean, you're still pretty early in. Maybe they're.
Maybe it gets thin. Like maybe it is just a lot of the same
I didn't want to sell it short because maybe not. But yeah, maybe there's not a lot to it. I don't know.
I mean, there is online multiplayer, so like there is stuff outside of the career story mode. But I don't know. Like it doesn't feel bad enough for EA to want to bury it based on what I've played so far.
Especially with EA's 2022 release calendar seeming fairly thin.
It's this in sports, dude. Like that's
they really don't ship a lot of games anymore.
Well, we talked a little bit before, but there's they put a lot into, or I assume they're banking on a lot of the Apex seasons and some of their other free to play games.
I'll grant that a lot of the statements we make about things that are coming out carry a lot of heavy implication, such as. Like in this case, I'm basically saying like they don't ship a lot of like unique standalone kind of self-contained games that are not part of like some ongoing live service or some long-running
or one of their $2 billion franchises.
Yes,
right. I'm trying to think of anything that I can't find a good list of EA released games that aren't just.
I mean, this year it was Madden, it was FIFA, and they an NHL. And they delayed college football, which was supposed to come out next year, to 2024.
Yeah, like there were no EA Originals at all this year.
Is that true?
I mean, EA Originals is a specific label. I don't mean just original games from EA. That's their.
They didn't even have anything they signed to put out under that label.
That's the like kind of imprint that put out like Unravel and It Takes Two.
Lost in Random?
Yes, Lost in Random was one of those. So they didn't even have any releases under that label this year.
Yeah. Okay.
Wild stuff.
No Battlefield, of course.
Right.
And I get it. Like, look, they're not the only publisher that had this scenario. Like, several have had to have a long wind-up for next year in 2024 as opposed to putting stuff out this year. But I feel like EA in particular, obviously they have their two cash cows in Madden and FIFA that they can rely on no matter how bad they are. But, I mean, Need for Speed has not been in a great place in some years, but I would think that a new one of those, especially coming from Criterion, such as it is, would warrant more than 6 weeks of wind-up. Yeah, in terms of promotion.
Right. Like, we haven't had one in 3 years or so, and then there's just not a lot on EA's register for coming out. So, yeah, it's weird.
I don't think there's been, like, a universally hailed Need for Speed since the last Criterion one, right? Which was... Or not even that, because, like, most wanted... Like, Hot Pursuit was the last one I remember...
The one that came out around the PS4 launch.
So that was Rivals, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which did not... I mean, I didn't play... I played very little of it. I'm not speaking from experience, but I don't think it did not hit at all. But Most Wanted was before that, which was... Sorry, I'm looking at... Okay, yeah, Rivals was a Criterion game, actually.
I thought Rivals was okay. Hot Pursuit was better.
Yeah, Hot Pursuit was the one like everybody, including me, went nuts for, and then they put out Most Wanted after that, and I think that one was a little bit less of a thing.
Yeah,
but the last like 3 or 4 Need for Speed releases have just been complete non-events.
And there was just I've lost track of this series. So there was a Need for Speed, just a full on.
There was one they just tried as a reboot.
Okay,
yeah, and there was also Payback and Heat.
Okay,
and those all just kind of came and went.
Well.
Will this one come and go too?
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see. I'm going to keep playing it. Okay. But like I said, early impressions are it seems like a perfectly cromulent driving game, but I don't know if I'd pay $70 for it personally.
That's the adjective everybody associates with Need for Speed, cromulent.
Yes.
That's what the marketers want to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
Alex
Put
Navarro,
it on the box.
Alex Navarro, Nextlander, cromulent.
It's a perfectly cromulent driving game.
Yeah, that's what.
What does it mean? Who can say? It means whatever you want it to mean.
The part they would slice it out with like ... dots on the other end. Perfect.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, that is Need for Speed Unbound. It is $70 wherever you're going to pick up your Need for Speed Unbound,
or $80 if you want to get it now and also get the extra stuff.
That's on PS5, Xbox Series X or S, and the PC. On Steam, I guess is worth mentioning. Though EA has been on Steam for a bit. I can't remember who's on, who's off again.
It's been a while
okay.
since I think they were
One of the first
we talked about that last week with Ubisoft coming back to Steam. EA is the first one I remember kind of buckling, and
okay,
like they were the first ones out there with their own store because Origin came out a million years ago, and then they were also the first ones to come crawling back.
So yeah, catch it. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some more video games like Evil West, that RE Village expansion, and Pentiment. Stick around. All right, we're back, and it is time to not mess up the name of this steampunk Demon West game. This is not weird. This is Evil West.
Nope.
Yes.
Yep. Came in here.
Evil West.
2022's West trilogy concludes
yeah.
with Evil West.
We
had Weird West and then Hard West 2.
Also, don't forget Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, there's the honorable mention to Forbidden West.
So we've had a decent amount of your, let's say, this one is probably more on the steampunk side, but some of them have been on the more demonic side of the West. Alex, is there a genre I'm reaching for here but not finding in this, like, kind of the West, but
alternate historical?
Yeah, I don't know what I'd call it. I'm not sure what I would call it. Like not quite Victorian West. I don't know. It's this is
Steam West,
but demons.
Okay.
So this is Flying Wild Hog.
Yes.
Doing this, and who are Flying Wild Hog? For my sake,
aren't they? Didn't they descend
People
from
Can
People
Fly?
Can Fly? I'm pretty sure. If they didn't actually like spin off of that, meaning developers from there started it, and it sure feels like it.
Because it sure feels like
they definitely make that same style of ridiculous, over the top action game mostly.
So Evil West is a third-person 360 game. What came through a time portal, landed here, and really reminds me of flavors now of God of War. And in such because you punch your fist through the chest, top of the chest, to get the loot. It's a lot of, you're going to do some traversal, and you're going to dump you into an arena where you're going to fight some guys, and then when you're done fighting them, you're going to see a chain that is there, and you're going to climb up that chain. It is also the controls in the combat feel very God of War. A lot of pop-ups, keep somebody up in the air. A lot of button combinations on the third-person combat. I have enjoyed it so far. The writing is very much in that, what is that People Can Fly game that was...
Which one? Bulletstorm?
Bulletstorm. The writing
is definitely the go-to... Well, I don't... This seems a little smarter than that to me so far.
When you say smarter, what are you trying to say?
They're on their... I mean, it's a Wild West game with, like, you know, magic gauntlets and vampires and all kinds of... They're on their way to Belmontville.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Was kind of the moment for me when I heard Belmontville. I was like, all right, they know exactly what they're doing here.
It still has a vibe to me, and I don't know if this is true. It's just the vibe I get of people writing 1800s, 19th century Western, U.S. Western dialogue that are non-English speakers. Like, it's got a weird cadence, and people say things that are just like, it's got a machismo to it that is not quite tongue-in-cheek. That makes me wonder when they say these things, am I supposed to think this is cool? Or am I supposed to think these people are gonna, like, be put in their place? You know what I mean?
Sure.
That vibe. Is it like, do you guys think when they're saying this, it sounds very cool? Or are we supposed to be corny here? I'm not quite sure where it's landing with some of the dialogue. And the character, this kind of cigar chomping characters that they have.
I find like I usually with stuff like this, I find is this self-aware question to be entirely unknowable.
Unknowable.
There is no way to tell if they knew exactly what they're doing here or not. So
they have not showed their hand yet.
Might as well just enjoy the ride. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to check this out until I saw Dan Reichert tweeting about it, where he called it some real deal Xbox 360 era B game bullshit.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
And it very much feels like that. I mean, the combat's interesting. It's like, it's kind of a shooter, but not really. Kind of more melee focused. Like you're having to interrupt like bigger enemies' attacks with a specific move to stop them, because otherwise you can't knock them out of Like
very God of War, I'm just saying.
Unless you use a specific counter. Yeah, like you said, pop-ups and juggles on the melee. Like the shooting is like it almost auto aims for you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like your sidearm. Like I realized what kind of game this was when I realized you don't even aim your pistol. Like there are two ways to shoot the pistol. It's either one shot or just hold the button down and he just like fans the six shooter like it's a machine gun. But even when they give you a rifle, it's like kind of an interesting concept for a shooter that I don't feel like I've seen before. Like when you're in shooting area or sequences, like enemies as they're about to shoot you will have like a weak point pop on them, and it's just this very obvious like glowing target. You pretty much just have to like vaguely left trigger in their direction and it will just shoot that weak point for you. And that's usually a one-hit kill.
The only problem I've had with it is maybe if you aren't lined up squarely with an enemy, it doesn't seem to hit. And that'll go to some of the other kind of gripes I have with it later. But yeah, we want to continue down because there's a lot in the mechanics here.
Yeah, there's like kind of a surprising. There's a decent amount of depth. I mean, like you've got kind of a lunging punch that you can close the gap with. Like there's a different type of punch that will knock enemies into specific environmental stuff.
Superman punch,
yeah. You can like Superman punch enemies into like spiked stuff, and that's like a one-hit kill too.
Did you get your electric gauntlet?
No.
So you get on the, so that's mostly right trigger stuff. On the left trigger, you wind up with this basically electric grapple that you can either zoom in towards enemy or pull enemies towards you, and kind of all the weird combinations you have on the right side of the controller, you get on the left side of the controller. Forward and LB, forward, back and LB, forward and left trigger. I'm playing on the Xbox, and it fleshes it out, but it quickly kind of adds up into you're in a combat arena. Again, this is very God of War. You're in a combat arena. There are going to be arrows showing you that enemies are going to be coming at you, attacking you from off screen, right? Peripheral arrows. So you can either break your combat and try and dodge. I have not found a quick turnaround, which I wish there were in this game. But very much like God of War, you've got to have some situational awareness in your enemy encounters because you don't get invulnerability a lot of the time when you're engaged in a combo. Like you're engaged in a combo, you do get a death move if the combo. It's very God of War again. If you whittle down an enemy low enough, you get a kind of move that can lock you into an animation, which might regen some health also. Health is also on a timer. You get like this health pack that you can pop, and it times out. You get a shotgun, which breaks shields. You get all these things that are neat and great and fun. I'm going to go into some of my complaints about it.
Okay, I'm ready.
I think out of the box on the Xbox Series X, the quality mode does not run well. It is performance mode runs pretty well, but I think the trade-off in the graphic, especially in the opening bits where you're kind of outside, the trade-offs are noticeable for me, or at least for me.
Yeah, the performance mode is super smooth on a Series X, but it's like very noticeably low res.
Yeah, it's like the lighting pass took off, like you just turned off a lighting pass or something, and going into performance mode and going back into quality mode, you notice the frames, and I've gone back and forth. Unfortunately, you have to restart the entire game for those settings to take effect.
That's a weird one for sure.
Yeah. The other thing is a lot of the enemy designs, there's just not enough contrast in the game. So stuff gets lost in the backgrounds, especially in kind of darker inside cavernous areas where you have a lot of enemies and it all kind of mushes together on the color palette. It's, I don't know if you noticed this, Brad, but it's just like, it just has like everything seems to have a similar, it's busy and it seems to have a similar color palette where it's kind of hard to pick out enemies sometimes. And, you're, again, managing a lot of things on the field at one time. So, you can only Superman punch one enemy at a time. So you wind up, I wind up punching an enemy, then trying to work the entire crowd towards the next environmental hazard. So they follow me and then like try and circle back around and punch another enemy. But it's generally pretty neat. Their story is so silly. It's basically what I can get so far is vampires in the Wild West. It's probably best explained by saying it's Men in Black, but in the Wild West. You are a knowing,
so it's Wild Wild West starring Will Smith.
Pretty much. You are a secret U.S. organization, sanctioned U.S. organization that is out they're
if it's sanctioned, I'm out.
keeping the rest of humanity safe from the unknowable evils out there, like these vampires. And on the vampire side, this is actually kind of novel. I thought was kind of neat. There's a faction of vampires that understand that humans are accelerating with technology past where vampires can keep up. So they feel like, oh, the humans are going to wipe us out because they're basically just moving ahead with technology and we can't just overpower them anymore. So if we don't do something, we're going to be in trouble and become extinct.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think that faction also leads into doing dubious things with bloodlines and accelerated vampirism and corrupting the blood and that whole thing. And you're out there and you're the son of the commissioner. I don't know, the one who's leading the Men in Black thing. Your name is Jesse, and you're out there and you're the son, and you don't want a desk job.
Your last name is Rentier. Also,
Rentier.
Not sure if they're trying to. Not sure if there's some like vaguely veiled commentary going on here, but anyway.
Wait, what's the Rentier? What would that be?
I don't know, man. We're living in a time of economic.
Are the bad guys landlords?
That's yes. I don't think so.
Okay.
Like a renter. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
you got a cool gauntlet that has all these special abilities on it, and you kind of bust your way through. Very 360 arena. Sidle along a cliff, get to your next arena, maybe do some environmental puzzling. Like I said, kind of God of War.
It's okay. It's not blowing my mind. It's kind of exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's $50, which is the new $40. I guess we should point out, like, it's not.
It's true. 50 is the new 40.
It's not. It is technically a not full price game.
Yeah,
not quite sure it's there at $50. Maybe after it goes on a sale, I would be a little more enthused about it.
I would if there were a better path on the frame rate on the quality side. I think I would feel a lot more strongly about this game.
Yeah, like it is very visibly lower resolution on the performance mode on console. Yeah. Like, and they're doing, I'm not sure if they're doing some kind of upsampling or AA or something that just makes everything look super muddy.
Yeah,
like very fuzzy and not like it. A lot of the detail gets lost, but I'll take frame rate any day. I don't know, the thing I was most surprised about, and it's not really unique to this game, was reading that tweet of Dan's and realizing that I've got nostalgia for that era, for those types of games, and then thinking to myself, like, how the fuck do I have nostalgia for the Xbox 360? That's still the new console, right? Like,
oh, buddy,
like somehow, somewhere in my mind, the 360 and the PS3 are always going to be the new consoles. And
yet,
I don't know if that's because there's so much continuity from those to the ones that came after them to the current ones or not. Like, not much has changed since those came out conceptually. I don't know. But
what is it about that?
I don't. Well, I mean, a lot of stuff changed. Like,
no. Like, what is it about the 360?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. A lot of stuff changed when that console came out. Like, a lot of what we just take for granted as part of the modern video game platform was defined when that thing launched. In terms of friends lists and parties and online communication and achievements and digital distribution and like X, Y, and Z things that you take
for granted
as part of the package now of modern video game consoles started there and haven't changed all that much since.
Well, like, what I was kind of getting at was like, is it 360 nostalgia for me, or is it that style of Unreal Engine game that is like those just chunky dude bro characters that have like, thighs and ankles the size of a column, right? Like this is very much that chunky game.
Yes, there's definitely some of that in here.
That Gears of War, just like,
I know the chunk.
Yeah, the chunk of just that to me is very 360. And like, we also like textures. Like we were able to put, as opposed to, let's say, the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, where things were still not textured out all the way, or the textures just felt like a stretched fabric over something. I feel like the 360 really got a lot of textures right, and we had this game. What basically looks like this game looks like a remaster of a 360 game. You know what I mean? You know, it's like, like there's a coat of polish on there that you wouldn't have gotten on that platform, but like structurally, it still feels very much like something of that era. Yeah, if they're like, we're like, we we made a 2022 version of Evil West, and like, oh, that's cool. This game looks good. You know,
Gotcha.
this looks, you know, that's what it feels like to me. Where the mechanics of it still feel like of a time. It's got even the skill trees feel like of a time. You know, it's you go in there and you're dropping a couple of points in, very light kind of RPG.
I have
mechanics.
nothing against a skill tree of an Elden time. I don't know that I love the current model of skill trees as much.
Yeah, I'm enjoying my time with it. It's not on normal, not very hard. It's actually fairly breezy so far. I think I died twice in I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. It's kind of fun. I don't know. You don't have to think too hard about it. Yeah.
It's decent. I mean, there's more, I think, to the combat than meets the eye. Like, there's a little more management of like crowd control and stuff than you might think. It's, you know, it's all right.
It's something like a little, in the storytelling, a little Square Enix-y about the storytelling. Either like, maybe Capcom, like, there's something Binary Domain or Resident Evil about what's going on with the storytelling.
Yeah, or like, I mean, I never played Shadows of the Damned, but I saw some people throwing that out as a comparison.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a game I have been meaning to revisit at some point, because I remember it being pretty good, but I have no idea if that one holds up at all.
The talking gun?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gabriel Hotspur.
Yes, Gabriel Hotspur.
Okay.
I googled Xbox 360 B games to see if anybody's done the comprehensive ranking, but
we tried.
Sadly, it's just a lot of alphabetical lists of games starting with
B.
Boo.
But yeah, I like anybody that's got nostalgia for that kind of dumb action game. It's also very linear unless it opens up later, which I doubt.
I've gotten to another hub like base, but it hasn't let me like choose a mission yet. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty linear from what I've seen. I don't know. It is kind of a fun throwback.
Yeah.
I just continue to be a little disturbed that this sort of thing is now a throwback. But then also, before we know it, the Xbox 360 will be 20 years old. So,
yeah, you're gonna have an Xbox 360 Mini on a shelf at some point.
Well, we almost got there's the streaming box. Remember, that was a little mini console.
Yeah. Well, that got canceled, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. Sadly.
You'll get one with Dark Sector packed in.
Dark Sector.
God. It comes with that Bionic Commando reboot.
Yeah, Bionic Commando, Dark Sector, and Dark Void are just going to be packed into your Xbox 360 Mini.
God help us.
All right, that is Evil West. It is out now, available across the Xbox. Actually, I think, Xbox family. It is on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So you can get that on PlayStation family, Xbox family, and PC. Let's talk about Resident Evil.
Oh, my favorite subject.
So Resident Evil.
This is the Winter's expansion, but specifically we're talking about the Roses.
Shadows of Rose.
Shadows of Rose.
Yeah, I guess that's the main thing worth talking about. And I mean, there's other stuff in the Winter's expansion, but that's the kind of actual new content, although maybe not quite as new as I was hoping for.
So I'll just say this out of the gate: Resident Evil Village, game that came out X amount of years ago. There might be some spoilers in here and talking about the Shadows of Rose.
Yeah, kind of unavoidable.
That is definitely unavoidable because that's the whole premise. The ending of Village is the premise for the setup here.
So I'm not gonna fret too much about it. That is their game. This is the DLC. Brad, tell me how you're enjoying it so far.
Man, I love Resident Evil Village. I'm just going to say that off the bat.
Okay.
I think back very fondly on the time I spent playing through that game. Just to set the stage a little bit. I just want to say that. So you play as Rose, who is the infant in Village, who you're kind of trying to find the whole game. She's now like in high school. So you don't
play as a baby. Got it.
No. This would be way more interesting if you did. She is shown at this age in the ending, I think in the kind of post-credits scene of Village, where she's
being taken care of.
She's like working with Chris's, whatever the fuck Chris's spec ops like bioweapon outfit is called this week.
Right.
Anyway,
not entirely human.
The premise of this is that she hates being a mold baby.
Well,
baby.
Because all of the mean girls in high school treat her like a monster for having weird powers and like glowing veins and stuff, which
it'll happen.
Well, high school's a tough time in general.
She is not. She really wants to be rid of her mold powers, and one of Chris's associates shows up with a way to do that. And it requires going inside the memories of the Mutamycete.
Oh boy.
So, like, from what I've seen, the entirety of this DLC so far has taken place where bodily she is actually just like standing there in a lab in front of a jar.
Okay.
Because it's all like in her head. It's all like the whole game is like a giant dream sequence so far.
That's kind of rad, actually.
Which had promise, and again, she's got weird powers. And I was like, and the first like 20, 30 minutes of this thing, the intro does some like blending of like, oh, you're in the lab one minute, and then you go through a door, and now you're in some castle, dank dungeon basement thing, like, you know, just like blending of environments, what is real kind of shit. Some super creepy sound design, like visuals, like it's really gross and unpleasant. And then after about half an hour, you're just kind of back in the castle from Village.
Okay.
And I have not gotten past that yet, and so
all right.
I don't know. Like,
so she's got powers in the real world, and then she also has powers in her dream world.
Nah, you don't really see any of that though so far.
Okay.
Like, I was hoping like, oh, you're gonna like roll around.
Yeah.
Also, this is third person. I should point out, the Winter's expansion also adds a third person mode to the base game, which is exactly what you think it is. It just makes it play like RE4. But that's optional. But in this DLC, it is mandatory. You have to play third person. So, but I mean, whatever in practice. So, like, it's plenty of our Resident Evil games have played exactly like this. The thing I was going to say though is it becomes a pretty standard third person shooter, because so far all of the fighting I've been doing has just been with a pistol and other guns. The only place I've seen the powers used so far is in more kind of environmental puzzle solving. Actually, I don't even know if I'd call it puzzle solving so much as there's like mold growths and shit all over the castle that just block your path to a lot of different areas, and you get like an amplifier that lets her like utilize one of her powers to like dissolve that mold, and then you can go to new parts of the castle. But it's very much just like walk up to this mold bud and like hold R1 until it dissolves, and now I can walk through there.
Mold
Does it feel like
bud.
just gating?
That is such a phrase.
Yeah, like it's just like gating. There may be more later, like I said. So far, it's just been fighting pretty standard shambler zombie type enemies with guns as the actual combat. Not seen any werewolves so far.
So far.
The most interesting thing about this thing is that once she gets into the castle, there's some kind of presence, some kind of like guardian. I mean, she literally calls it a guardian angel. She's like, but the way that it communicates with her is writing on the environment in these like this like script, like handwriting looking glowing letters. And that stuff is like super well done because it's very snappy. Like it'll start writing its responses like as soon as she's done asking a question or whatever. Like it feels very back and forth. But it talks in these really clipped, like short answers. You know, she's like, "Who the hell are you?" And it'll just be like, "Can't say." And then and she'll be like, "I don't. What am I doing?" And it'll just be like, "Danger! Get out now!" Like it's kind of interesting and really well executed. And she's like, "Do you have a name? Are you guardian angel? What should I call you?" And it's like, she's like, "Are you Gabriel? Are you Michael?" And then he just like writes Michael.
Okay.
So now she is calling this presence Michael as she's talking to it, and it's writing back to her.
Interesting.
Like that's the most interesting. Also, the shopkeeper, the rotund man from
the Duke or something.
The Duke. See him or some version of him seems to be the villain.
Okay.
In this,
I think they showed that in the trailers.
Yeah. So I'll probably keep going with it because I'd like to see if it gets more interesting. Like story-wise with that, you know, the back and forth that I was talking about, like that is kind of cool. But it is very much like, I sure do remember this whole castle as I've been just going around unlocking different parts of it. Like there's
when you build those assets, you got to use them again eventually.
Yeah, because like the intro is fairly strong to this. And then as soon as I realized, like, because I knew exactly where I was going, you know, it's like, oh, I remember this kitchen. Like I remember once I opened this door, on the other side of that is the big 4-way courtyard. And then sure enough, 5 minutes later, I get through that door and there's that courtyard, you know. There's a primary objective of like you have to find 3 masks to unlock the crystal that you need to remove your powers.
That's very
I've got the first of those 3 masks so far. So either this is a pretty short DLC, or maybe I hope there's more to it. Like I hope they actually added some more interesting mechanics. But so far, gameplay wise, it is like maybe a little too familiar.
It's $20 all in, right?
Yeah.
For the entire package.
Yeah, it's like they also added some more mercenaries content.
Okay.
So
I could see it being short.
Yeah, it feels like it might be. There's only like 5 trophies for the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, $20, and it's not the only thing in the box, but I could see it. That is the Resident Evil Village Winter's expansion, specifically Shadows of Rose.
Yes.
Shadows of Rose, $20, available on wherever you got your Resident Evil Village. I can't remember where I got I think I'm on Xbox there. I'll have to take a look. All right, next up here, Pentiment. Pentiment, the scripty game.
Yes,
the game
the murder mystery circa 15th century, 16th century, somewhere around there.
Might even be before. I don't know exactly what they tell you what the times in
early 1500s, right?
Yeah, so it'd be 16th century.
This I'm going to say this again. If you're not familiar with the work, Name of the Rose, it is just.
Yeah, it is not just in that ballpark. It is the home team.
Yeah. So I have put a lot of hours into this, and this game just keeps going. Now, a lot of those hours are because you're kind of running back and forth between screens a lot, and a lot of it's chewed up just kind of getting dialogue from everybody. But man, I did not think it was going to go this long. I'm in what I'll call Act 3 now, which maybe of 3. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm assuming the third act. I like it a lot. I've hit some things that have taken me out of it. Some I don't know if they're bugs or sequence breaking or what, but things that aren't logically working out the way you'd expect them to work out in a game that has you running around kind of completing logical steps. So, for example, without giving anything away too much, I felt like I got all of the evidence I needed for something, and then when I talked to someone, they weren't acknowledging I had seen all this stuff. And Andreas was saying, I just need to find out more. And I'm like, dude, you have seen basically the bloody knife in this person's hand. Just acknowledge it.
Acknowledge me.
Yeah. Some weird visual stuff that doesn't bother me that much. Sometimes the layering in the game is rendered. Like somebody will be sitting behind a table, but they're rendered in front of the table. So you just see them floating kind of in the air.
I wonder if that's on purpose.
It doesn't seem like it. It seems like a rendering engine problem.
Oh, like an actual bug.
Yeah.
Because I know through various phases of art history, like perspective was not always handled as well as it could be, and they seem like they've really done their homework on this thing. But
this will be like the splash effect from water will clip through a wall.
Okay, sure.
Yes,
like that kind of stuff.
Like the Z depth is wrong on something. But aside from that, it's been pretty fun. It's a little annoying in some of the running around. That's it. Like, I know there's no fast travel in this game, and it might break the game, but sometimes I wish there were a fast travel in this game where I could just warp from the Abbey to somewhere else. And tracking sometimes where you're at in a given quest line can be a little tough for me. Okay, I know I'm going to talk to these 3 people on my map, or 3 icons of where I can investigate, but I would love a little more tracking. There are a lot of people in this game, and you're tracking them.
There's a lot of, the number of characters is actually kind of astronomical.
Yeah, and you're tracking a lot even throughout the game in terms of who's the kid of this person and what's their relationship, and they have a farm here and they don't have a farm, and you can get locked into the way the game works. If we didn't make it clear last time, is you're on a ticking clock to solve a murder, and for example, you're on a ticking clock to solve a murder, and doing certain actions will eat up an amount of time. So you can find yourself backed into a situation where you weren't expecting to give up so much time, and you do, and you're suddenly forced to kind of present the evidence, and you're not ready yet.
Right.
And so in my playthrough, stuff has gone beyond sideways. Like, this town is ruined.
You were telling me a little bit about it, and it sounds like you just straight up...
It's terrible.
You crashed into this place.
I feel bad. You
should.
Things have gone really poor. I don't know how much I could have changed. there are certain things maybe I would have done differently. So I'm already looking at like, would I play this again just to kind of do things differently?
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed it, and I kind of want to see where it wraps up. But boy, I feel bad about what's happened in this town.
This is making me want to Google the phrase "Pentiment bad ending" to see if that's like a thing. Like, is there such a thing as a bad ending in this game?
So I almost look up Pentiment good ending, because it really feels like one of those games where I don't know if there is a good ending. Like, it might just be a series of unfortunate events. It's really interesting, and it's one of those games where you're feeling the best comes from when it feels very natural to the choices you made. And it feels very bad when you feel like you hear the gears grinding against each other from the choices you made. When you're like, oh, I made it, you're out of sequence on this thing. Or like, I made this choice in a previous thing and you're not caught up yet in the sequence. And that's a shame, but it's more good than bad. And it's a lot of fun. It just takes a long time to get through everything. I don't know how many hours I have in it, but it feels like a lot.
I think it's supposed to be generally average out around 20 hours.
Okay. I mean, it's a $20 game, and it's there's a lot to it. It feels like a decent variety in the choice. I don't know if that's true. My complaints are not going to be fixed with anything aside from the technical bugs, because they're part of the game. It just sucks when you go to talk to a person, and they also have when you talk to a person, you will sometimes get they will remember this stuff. Like, hey, this person will remember this. And so when you're forced with a check, let's say, when I say a check, I mean like do you have enough points to pass this dialogue check? You might not be ready for it. And I have save scummed back to be like, whoa, I didn't mean to get into this dialogue check with this person already. I was just going to talk to them more. And, I reloaded back out to be like, that's not fair. I was not ready to go into this yet. I know what I want to do and I don't want to talk to them yet. And that kind of stinks sometimes when you're like, naturally rolling into those dialogue checks and you're not ready yet, and because you're going to get evidence for people. It's fun. I'm going to try and wrap it up. Pentiment, $20 out on the Xbox and the PC Game Pass if you got it. If you got it. It's a fun one to check out.
I don't got it. It turns out
you don't got it.
My Game Pass ran out a week or two ago.
You're paying retail $20.
I need to re-up probably.
Game Pass,
still a hell of a service.
Not cheap, but I think I still get my money's worth out of it. For the PC
it's a weird situation though, where like I was playing Scorn on Xbox via Game Pass. There's not much else on Game Pass I want to play right now, but that I don't already have via other means. So it's like, should I sign back up to Game Pass right now, or should I just buy like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my save file on this game is locked up behind either I should resubscribe or maybe I should just buy this game. I'm not sure.
But you lose your live as well, right? Because it was in the same bundle, I assume. So you're not paying for Xbox Live.
And I cannot tell you the last time I played a well, we played Spider Heck a few weeks ago, but that was only because you already had it on Xbox. Like, we could have just as well played that on Steam.
And then
I just rarely play multiplayer. When we play
Grounded, you're playing on a Steam version?
Yeah, I'm playing. Yeah, it's weird. It's like, that stuff is so scattershot now, because like Grounded is fully interoperable. Like, you can just buy the Steam version and play with people on Xbox all day long without any extra subscription or anything.
But like, if I wanted to play against you, I would need my Xbox Live on the Xbox, right?
Yes.
Right.
I believe, that seems that should be the case. And I was going to make the example of Darktide, although I mean it's totally different developer. Like, it's not apples to apples, but like Darktide, for example, has no cross-platform compatibility between Steam and Game Pass. So it's still very much and like, I've got some friends that want to play Warzone that I'll probably get into, and it's still very much just a game by game thing of like, which version should I get? Can I play with you? Maybe, I don't know.
Seems like maybe stuff like first-party Microsoft stuff a little bit more accepting of third-party interoperability.
Yeah, well, they can treat that stuff like a loss leader because they've got basically infinite resources, and it's good for Game Pass if that stuff works. Versus like a like a Fat Shark or somebody that's got to like do a lot of extra work and spend a lot of extra money to make that happen.
Definitely. And like pay outside for those servers, and Microsoft has their whole network, let's say. Finally here, I'll just mention God of War Ragnarok since I'm closing the book on it. Got my platinum all done, finished up everything I needed to finish up. That's it. I think last time I had finished the story stuff, but now I've gone back and done all the extracurricular, let's say.
The old first-party platinum.
It seems to be the way I roll. I don't know if it's the way they structure their trophies or what.
I think it's the way Sony rolls also.
Yeah.
They've got a good trend going of like, hey, if you play through this game, you're going to be most of the way there. You might as well
most of the way there, yeah. There's a couple of optional things in God of War, which also I didn't wind up busting the difficulty down, but I talked to some people and they're like, yeah, I just took the difficulty down and to get through some of those battles, and they don't punish you for the trophies, which I appreciate. I wound up keeping it up. There were a couple of battles which towards the end there afterward, which were tough but doable, and I'm not that great at video games, so it's very achievable platinum. If
you sell yourself short. You're great at video games.
I am actually fantastic, and nobody else will be able to get that platinum. Yeah.
Agreed.
Good luck. Good luck out there is what I say. But yeah. My final thoughts again, same as they were last time we talked about it. I like 2018 better, but this is a hell of a game. All right, we're going to take another break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about news. Microsoft, back in the news. You know why. I was going to say.
Some might say they never left.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it in a minute. Stick around. All right, we are back. And the news this week, Brad Shoemaker.
Black Friday.
What sales we got?
Wireless mouse, 30% off.
Oh, markup 30%, markup 35%, get 30% off.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Have you guys stopped participating in that stuff, really? Unless there's something that...
Unless there's something I really want, no. I don't do it.
I did not go hard on like looking for deals this year. I just I didn't buy a single thing, and I would not have unless something like floated across my view. I wasn't like sitting there refreshing deal sites or anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that does comprise a good chunk of the video game news this week, turns out. It's basically Black Friday and regulatory action.
Okay. Well,
my two favorite things.
Well, why don't we start with the regulatory action and see where things go? Brad, what do we got on the regulatory action?
Obviously, the Microsoft acquisition of Activision has been in the news constantly since it was announced. Mostly in a pretty like tenuous or speculative capacity. It was a lot of like, will they, won't they challenge it? Will this deal go through or will it not? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of stuff bubbling up in the UK.
Yeah, like UK and the EU have both actually been taking a pretty close interest. What was going to happen over here was pretty up in the air until this Politico scoop from last week, which literally starts with the line, the Federal Trade Commission is likely to file an antitrust lawsuit to block Microsoft's $69 billion takeover of video game giant Activision Blizzard.
Oh, bother.
But I mean, like 2 paragraphs down, they say a lawsuit challenging the deal is not guaranteed. The FTC's 4 commissioners have yet to vote out a complaint or meet with lawyers for the companies. But still seems to be potentially the direction they are leaning. I mean, like we are certainly not legal experts or financial analysts. At least I'm not. I can't speak for you guys.
I used to be. I'm not anymore. My legal expertise expired.
No, you don't practice anymore.
Yeah, I don't practice.
Of course.
I can't really. I have to say that.
I mean, obviously, we can't prognosticate about like how this is actually going to go, most likely, but like it's at least worth pointing this out that like, hey, there is a decent chance that the government will move to stop this. Will they actually go through with it? Will they be successful? If they do, who can say?
And there's still concessions that Microsoft, I'm sure, could make to guarantees that they could make that could potentially, force this thing through. It's just, how much legal finagling can they do?
Yeah, I mean,
greasing.
Yeah, that's the other part of the story this week is that this has been coming out in various forms. Like Phil Spencer gave that interview a few weeks ago where he kind of softly said, like, hey, we'd be open to like contractually making sure Sony can keep Call of Duty for X number of years. Yeah. Reuters is now reporting that they have straight up floated that as a possibility to EU regulators that they're open to a 10-year deal guaranteeing that Sony can keep Call of Duty on its platform. So that, like, I can't push my eyeballs into my skull enough with some of this stuff because it is.
I mean, you could try.
I tried. It didn't make it go away.
Okay.
Like I get it. I mean, this is a ridiculous deal because it is just monumental. The $69 billion. It is clearly market consolidation with Activision and Microsoft. There's no way to deny that, right?
Yes.
I think Sony, in my opinion, that is not a good faith argument to stop the deal. There are a million other reasons to stop this deal. The Call of Duty one, I kind of have to be like, like, okay, I get this is a big deal for you, but
they can't push the real reason, which is that this will be potentially ruinous to our company to have this other platform holder hold all these cards.
I mean, they could say that, but
that kind of is what they're saying.
Yeah, it kind of is what they're saying.
Well, it is, but they're harping on this Call of Duty thing because it is a specific business case thing they can point to and be like, look how much money this makes on our platform. This is a big deal. But the real thing is that Call of Duty could burn out at any time. But they also have Bethesda. They also have these other Activision properties they would be siphoning up. There's I think the real framework is the number of things that Microsoft will hold when this is all said and done, specifically because of the amount of money they have to throw around compared to other companies in this space, could be extremely damaging to us. But also Sony doesn't want to look weak and say like, no, our PlayStation business, it's like they can't do that either.
I am getting such a kick out of reading some of these statements from Microsoft lawyers where they are like really cheerleading the fact that they're in last place in the console race.
So that's the part where I started shoving my eyes into my skull.
Like dying at there is very much a we're number three kind of tone to a lot of this
like,
stuff.
How is bronze.
Yeah. Can I read this? I don't know if this is the one you're looking at, but the one that starts the suggestion, that one.
Yes.
The suggestion that the incumbent market leader Sony, with clear and enduring market power, could be foreclosed by the smallest of the three console competitors, Xbox, as a result of losing access to one title is not credible.
Good lawyer talk right there.
Again, that is a Microsoft statement.
Yeah, saying, that's Microsoft.
Hey, actually, the smallest of the three console competitors, us.
Yeah. Against the big dogs like Sony, like some of this stuff. And then like further on in this Politico story, they have like kind of Google weighing in some of this stuff about antitrust stuff. And just Google anywhere near an antitrust thing is already suspect. Google saying like, yeah, this is probably pretty bad for the industry. It's like, okay, Google. All right, yeah.
Okay, Google.
Okay, Google. And then further on, there's mention of like Epic's thing with Google. Everybody is suing everybody and trying
and
to
Apple. Don't forget.
And Apple, yeah. So like
primarily Apple, even
all these companies are getting very mad at each other.
I mean, whatever. This was the inevitable consequence of allowing
massive consolidation.
Well, not just that, but allowing the endless concentration of power in the hands of private tech corporations. Right?
It's just so weird to see like. When people cross their arms and are like, well, now this is too much. And be like, okay, this is the one? This is the one?
Yeah, this is the one. We're drawing the line here.
I mean, it is one of the biggest ones. It is $69 billion worth of one. But, like, I don't know. The whole thing is...
I don't know either, man.
I don't know.
It just feels like this is going to just delay the inevitable, which is I think this deal will still end up going through. As much as Sony is driving this, this narrative of, we're going to get our poor company is going to be destroyed by this. Again, neither of these companies are being completely honest because, yes, Microsoft might be number 3 in the console market, but in terms of cash on hand, they dwarf everybody.
Yeah,
and PlayStation is not going to be ruined by one franchise not being on their platform anymore, which even though they're saying it will be.
Yes, so yeah, you're right about that. Their console business is certainly number 3, but as a corporate entity, Microsoft dwarfs Sony like a million times over.
Several orders of magnitude.
I don't know. I mean, I still feel the same way about this merger that I did when they announced it, which is like massive consolidation is alarming, but also it is impossible to imagine anybody doing a worse job of running Activision than Activision itself. So like,
I mean, that is true.
For that reason, like you kind of hoped that things would get better at Activision under Microsoft. Who can say? Anyway,
I mean, but yeah, I mean, you're totally right, and everybody should be concerned at that amount of consolidation. Like, it is not healthy. It is, even if it seems pro-consumer in terms of, hey, get these things on Game Pass. If you just get Game Pass, they are dictating parts of the marketplace that have not a lot of competition, and that's alarming. The Call of Duty argument just doesn't. I mean, I'm just not a big enough Call of Duty fan.
But it's the biggest money thing they can point to.
Yeah, and as much as I would like to see Activision in more stable hands and more accountable hands, I don't know if I would necessarily be like, no, this is probably the lesser evil than Activision just kind of disintegrating and splintering off. I don't know. I'm not a person with a job at Activision, so
no,
that's,
I have no answers for any of that.
Either way, reading this Politico story and then also reading the follow-up article, Brad, that you reported here, or you sourced to here about the Microsoft basically saying, like, we'll do a deal for 10 years with Call. Just knock it off. The whole thing just makes me shove my heels of my palms into my face and be like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, folks? It's just bananas. It's not to mention all of these always start with $69 billion worth of asset transfer.
Yes.
Which is just an
a lot
of money.
Yeah. So I before the NVIDIA ARM deal went down in flames, I would have very cynically said, like, of course this is going to go through. Like, these deals always go through. Like, they'll figure out how to make it work. But then that ARM stuff fell apart. Like, it is possible. It seems like there is some renewed desire for antitrust stuff.
I feel
like this, but I still, if I had to bet on it, I still feel like this will probably happen.
That's where I am too.
They'll figure out a way to grease the wheels enough, or make enough concessions.
What happens to Activision if this doesn't go through?
Probably,
I don't know. They just keep going, I guess. I mean, if this deal doesn't close by next June, then they have to basically start over. And at that point, I doubt that they would bother.
Like, they still have a plenty of pending lawsuits going on. So
that's the thing is, I feel like they might actually be in kind of a bad situation if this does not happen for them.
There's probably, if this doesn't happen, I bet there's a lot of board revolt that gets reported on. And
remember all the internal strife there that sort of just like all was put on ice the second that this buyout got announced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll have to. I mean, the Kotick stuff is already dealt with, but there's still a lot of internal cleanup they would have to do, probably, instead of just letting Microsoft come in and take care of everything.
It's just, I don't know. I'm just clarify my position in case anybody's confused. The Sony thing with Call of Duty seems pretty silly to me. Microsoft saying that this deal would lead to more competition in the marketplace also seems silly to me.
Nonsense.
So, take that for what you will.
Yeah. I'm not taking sides here. I literally, I always thought this deal was a nightmare from the get-go, but I still think it's going to happen.
All right. Brad, I'm going to segue here so you can tee up this next one. What's not going to happen anytime soon?
New consoles?
There you go.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, this is kind of barely news, I guess, but it did come out of some filings related to I forget which investigation it is. Is it the EU's? No, it's the UK's investigation of this merger. Some filings from both Microsoft and Sony have basically both come out and said, hey, we're not shipping another console until at least 2028. Like, Microsoft said that very directly. Sony's was redacted, but you can easily read between the lines of the other statements they made around it to kind of triangulate the date that they're talking about as also being that same year.
Okay.
Which feels fucking weird to be talking about the year 2028 in a real way.
Yeah.
In terms of a time when things are going to happen and not just some theoretical future flying car date.
I assume that in saying this, they are leaving the wiggle room for potential half-step consoles should the need arise.
Well, I mean, this is not binding. This is just, but I mean, I remain fairly convinced there will not be half-step consoles this time.
I don't think they should, but I'm not leaving that possibility out.
I think those were a one-off consequence of 4K TVs becoming a big deal and those previous consoles shipping pretty underpowered to begin with, whereas these consoles, so there's multiple things here. I mean, first of all, for it to be 8 years in between, say, the PS5 and the PS6, duh. 8 years has kind of become the standard for console generations now, ish. 7-8 years. But like those machines and like the previous ones were very powerful on day one, like compared to like they were very competitive with like a good PC when they came out. And we're still 2 years in, like barely seeing any exclusive games shipping for them from the platform holders. Like, you know, Ratchet and Clank. And help me name some other games from Microsoft or Sony that only run on these new consoles
that are out now.
Yes,
Returnal.
Yeah, God of War is both. Horizon West was both, right?
Yes.
Forbidden West.
Halo Infinite is both.
Halo Infinite's both.
All the Forza games, of course. And point being, like, they have barely started tapping the power of these things. 2 years in, there's been supply chain issues, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like,
we got the VR, the PlayStation VR stuff coming out. Maybe that'll be the thing that wants to push hardware forward.
Yeah. The point being is, like, I would not be shocked if this console generation is longer than the last couple have been for the reasons that we're talking about here. Like, not enough people have gotten them in their homes as fast as they would like, and they're not utilizing the current hardware yet.
Do you think before we see a new hardware, we see a stronger footprint of the streaming stuff?
I don't know.
Like, hey, you can... Okay, let me clarify that question even more. Make it easier for you. Do you think Microsoft has a version of a game that is better fidelity streamed to you than the console? Okay.
Definitely not.
I don't think so.
So, if you have an Xbox Series S, can you stream a Series X version of that game?
Oh gosh, I can't remember how that stuff breaks down.
Like,
I don't think they're offering Series X streaming as of now.
Okay,
I'd have to check. I know they were upgrading like their data center hardware at some point. I'm nowhere near an authority on that stuff.
Because I feel like that's where the next thing is going to come from. Like, does Microsoft get an app to basically play your Xbox games worked out in a way that becomes commonplace in the marketplace on Samsung TVs and LG TVs? That is just like, download the app, play it, log into Microsoft,
that's happening.
Xbox Live.
Yeah, that is going to happen.
Remember, they announced that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, my thing is that the common marketplace thing versus the hardware? Like, does that become the bigger step for them versus like, hey, you know what? The X Series X is there, and if you want the hardware, it's there. But you can just play all your games directly from your TV if you want.
Oh yeah, they absolutely would love to sign people up for. I mean, they're still losing money on every Xbox shipped, as far as I know. Yeah. They would love to just have people pay to play the games without buying that expensive hardware.
Yeah, so like Sony doesn't necessarily have that infrastructure. They're trying, right?
But yeah, they've got the PlayStation Now stuff.
Yeah,
it's not maybe quite as robust. I mean, it seems fine. The last time I used it,
it's functional. It just has not like really announced itself in a way where like the market has like started seizing on it.
No, I streamed a few of those. I forget, PS1 or PS2 games. I forget what I played a few months ago that I did over there streaming, and it's certainly better than it was when it launched like 8 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I think technically it's fine. Like I played some Ratchet and Clank stuff on it. I just feel like their ecosystem doesn't feel as robust as the quote unquote Xbox experience, right? Like it doesn't feel as mature as.
I think that's because it isn't.
Not.
Yeah. All right. So no consoles 2028. Brad, you put this new Super Mario Brothers trailer on here.
Sure. I feel obligated. I don't know. Do you guys have much to say? Seems fine.
A lot of Peach in this one.
Yeah.
A little more Luigi.
Yes.
I think Peach also sounds off to me. But
who's doing her?
I forget.
Is it not the woman from the Queen's Gambit?
Anya Taylor-Joy?
Yes, it is.
I've never seen her in anything, so I didn't recognize her.
She's good. I don't think of her as like goofy animated movie actress, but maybe I'm just underestimating her range.
Yeah,
but yes, this trailer, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it very much felt like checking a bullet list of let's go. Like a Mario Kart sequence on the Rainbow Road. They've got their side-scrolling sequence clearly. Just like
their Donkey Kong is there.
Yes, the Donkey Kong
beats
battle.
The living shit out of Mario.
Fire Flowers.
All right, let me go through what I think worked.
Okay.
And again, we got a question into the Q&A, which didn't end up taking this week, being like, are we giving too much weight to this Mario movie? It's a kid's movie, for God's sakes. And the thing is, they're right. We absolutely are. But that's our job, to give too much weight to things that are related to video games, whether they matter or not. And so that's why we're here and we're doing this. I was a big Sonic the Hedgehog movie doubter. And I'm going to say that first one was better than I thought it would be. Mm-hmm. I think you can make a perfectly cromulent video game movie out of these characters and do interesting things, potentially, with Mario. I'm not sure that I'm seeing a lot of that here, but I do think Jack Black as Bowser is good, natural feeling. It works. I think Luigi talking this much is weird, but Charlie Day's voice works for the character.
I'm with you on there.
That was kind of it. I think visually it looks kind of nice, but other than that, I'm not sure that much else really did anything for me.
Why? So that in the direct they have Seth Rogen talking about the role. Why does everyone mention the Play 10 Direct or the Play 10 Mario?
Play Choice 10.
Play Choice 10
Seth,
Mario.
I very much read that as like, here's my deep cut to prove my Nintendo cred.
Yeah, here's my bona fides. Isn't that
also what Chris Pratt said?
Maybe.
Like, didn't he say when he played Mario in the arcades?
Or the laundromat or whatever it was. He said. I mean, granted, that was kind of the way you would have played Super Mario Brothers in an arcade back in the day. To be fair, but like also, I never saw.
Did he have a Nintendo?
Like, I never saw a Play Choice 10 in the wild.
Yeah, like that's the weird thing. Is like, why are people just not people, but the two people that have mentioned ever since they played Mario have not said ever since they played Mario on a Nintendo? Like,
I could not begin to tell you why that is the case, and I find this equally baffling, so you're not alone on that.
Okay. Like, it just seems like if I were to take a bet, 99.9 people I asked would be like, where did you experience Mario for the first time? On a Nintendo, a home
literally
console.
On the NES I got for Christmas.
And a couple of people would say, I played Mario Brothers, the original Mario Brothers in an arcade, or something like that. Like, you know, or I played Donkey Kong. Does that count?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a weird one.
It's fairly baffling. I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah, I don't know. Something about the nature of this trailer in particular, the way they were just going through the beats of, here's a thing you recognize, here's another thing you recognize. Look, we're doing a fucking Mario Kart level. Isn't that cute?
A Tanuki suit.
It felt very, like, didactic. Like, very, like, we are hitting, like, we have to hit a beat here, we have to get a recognizable thing here. Like, it was all too mathematically designed to make you go ooh and ah at these specific things. I don't know how any of that coheres into a movie that is actually like a story and not just a greatest hits collection of Mario stuff.
I think it's going to be fun.
It'll probably be fine. We are overthinking this. I understand that.
But yes, if you are comparing it as a response to the original and infamous Super Mario Brothers movie,
boy, it's not that.
I feel like it is a response to that in like, oh no, this one we're gonna hit your nostalgia bone over and over and over again. Yes. Whereas that movie was,
we were gonna play that shit like a fiddle.
Yes, instead of just Mario who.
But again, I'm saying Sonic the Hedgehog came out, was better than everyone pretty much thought it was going to be. The second movie did very well. There is actually a higher bar to clear here than just not making that previous movie again.
Yeah. When does this come out? It's soon, isn't it?
April.
Oh, okay.
April 7th.
Not as soon as I thought. When's the next Avatar movie coming out?
Like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yes, that is a holiday movie.
Anybody excited to see that?
No.
I'm excited to see if people show up for it. That's it. That's all I'm really interested in.
People will show up.
I think they will, but I wonder what the drop-off is going to be.
What was Cameron just saying about how much business it needs to do to actually break even, though?
I missed that, but I'm sure it's a lot.
Like, I think he said it needs to be... Yes, he said it needs to make $2 billion to break even.
Lifetime? I bet it could make $2 billion. Oh, to break even. Oh, boy.
The other thing that he said is that he's only going to make probably about 6 more movies, and half of those are going to be Avatar
That's
sequels.
the thing. I don't hate the first Avatar. Like, it was kind of an interesting experiment when it was made. But for being one of probably the best directors in modern history, to spend most of the rest of his filmmaking career on more Avatar.
Yeah.
Just kind of hurts. I mean, you know, more power to him to do what he wants, but
boy, howdy.
I saw we went to the movies to go see that new Pixar or Disney movie, the Strange Land or Strange World, Strange something.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the Avatar trailer, and it did nothing for me. Like,
yeah, like I came out of I came out of the first trailer for that thing feeling like I had seen the whole movie. Like,
holy cow!
Okay, I know exactly how this is going to go.
Just like no interest, and I don't know. Maybe I've changed, but like I have. It just nothing. I do want to see that. I almost was asked my wife if we could take the kids to go see that. What was it? The Onion, the detective movie.
Glass Onion.
Yeah, I was like, do you think we can just go bring the kids? Is it bad to take an 8-year-old to this? But we wound up seeing the Disney movie instead. I really want to see it. I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to. Anyway, the Mario movie, April. Brad, you've got one more story on here.
Hell yeah, I do. Yuzo Koshiro is making a new Genesis game, and more importantly, he is making a new Genesis soundtrack.
So I did not know. Is it Yuzo? Did you say
Yuzo Koshiro?
Yuzo Koshiro, the god.
Okay, I did not know Yuzo by god status.
I didn't know the god was his honorific, but okay.
All you really need to know is that he was the composer of all of the Streets of Rage soundtrack, or Streets of Rage music for the Genesis, but also Revenge of Shinobi and ActRaiser, and like a lot of the best fucking music of the 16-bit era came from this man.
Okay.
And I forgot. I just think of him as a composer. I forgot that he also did some game development, some game design. I guess Beyond Oasis was the last game he worked on in that capacity.
But it was mostly in that era, right? Like that 16-bit era?
I don't know what he has been. I've looked him up from time to time because his music is so goddamn rad to like see like, hey, what is he doing now? Maybe I could go listen to that. And like he kind of, I want to say he had to do with a lot of like Square Enix stuff.
Kind
of in the background, like a lot of JRPG.
What you mean.
I think he maybe worked on a lot of JRPG stuff. I think like, okay, yes, he did some Puzzle and Dragons stuff. So I think he's probably been in Mobile Land a little bit here and there. Like not as prominent as he used to be. That's right. He did like one thing for Streets of Rage 4. Like they made a big deal out of that when that game came out. They were like, hey, we got Yuzo Koshiro for a track. Anyway, just out of nowhere on Twitter, he's just like, hey, we're making a new Genesis game. Yes, I'm doing the soundtrack. By the way, it's a side-scrolling shooter.
So how do you play it? Or how would one play it?
I mean, he said in a different tweet, like they're exploring release options, like they might have a physical release.
Would it be a ROM otherwise?
No, they could sell it on Steam or whatever. Like that's how.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to play on the hardware.
Yeah, like that's how that Digital Eclipse release of that Garbage Pail Kids game was that Drew worked on. Like,
okay,
they did not put out a ROM, or there is a limited physical release of that thing, but it's primarily like sold on Steam in a launcher that can run it, or not just Steam. I believe that's on consoles as well. But this is just straight up a classic 16-bit era side-scrolling shooter with, again, new music from him.
Like the immediate visual I saw looked kind of like Life Force.
Sure. Yes. That's not a bad description, but like just him making more music on the platform that made him a legend is just kind of fucking incredible to think about and very exciting. I follow him on Twitter. Let's see. He's tweeted some other random stuff. I'm thinking about which beat is the best for the first stage BGM to go with. 6/8, typical Konami beat, or 4/4 general, or odd, cool, but unsuitable. I love knowing now that in his opinion, 6/8 is the typical Konami beat.
I like that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
This is very exciting if you're a nerd about 16-bit era stuff.
See, I didn't have a Genesis, so I feel like my nostalgia, especially like Streets of Rage stuff, just isn't there. Just I don't have it. Did have a Super Nintendo though.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the thing about that Yamaha chip in the Genesis, it was also in like a ton of arcade hardware and stuff. So like that sound is very prolific. Like if you hear the drums and the bass from that thing, like you will recognize it if you've been in an arcade.
Hearing that 6-8, the typical Konami beat. All right. Well, obviously no other release date or anything like that.
No, there's not even a name for it. Like, okay. It's just a couple of photos off of a TV screen of whatever it's going to be. I think he says something somewhere in here about coming up with like a temporary project name, so they don't know anything about what it's going to be called or when it's coming out, but very exciting.
And his company is called Ancient Corp?
Yes, I believe that's right.
Very good. All right. That's it for the news. I'm going to wrap things up here. Talked about Need for Speed Unbound, Evil West, Resident Evil Village, the Winter's expansion, Pentiment, we'll touch on a little God of War there, and of course, the news. We do have emails. We're not going to get to them this week, but we have emails. If you want to send them to us, you can send them to Brad Shoemaker.
I've got this one right here entitled One Quick 40K God Emperor Fact from Anders.
Okay.
Since Vinny mentioned the God Emperor of Mankind being Jesus and Brad seemed to perk up, here's another fun bit. The Emperor is implied to have been St. George, and the dragon he defeated wasn't slain, it was imprisoned inside the planet of Mars.
Of course.
Said dragon might also be the Void Dragon, essentially an elder god who eats suns and does technology. Ask Vinny about the Necrons and the Mechanicus.
Oh.
40K is batshit, everything to 11, and it's a pretty fun thing to read about.
Necrons are pretty fun to read about.
I talked to some people on the Discord about 40K since we talked about it previously in the last couple weeks, and have come to realize how tongue-in-cheek and self-aware it seems to be.
At least in the beginning, in the early days.
Or yes, I guess there is definitely the thought that as Games Workshop got more corporate, it's gotten way more serious about itself. But some of the origins of that thing seem like I can respect it a lot more, knowing that it
a little more punk
knows how over the top it is, and yes, fair amount of like explicit anti-Margaret Thatcher stuff in there early on, which is like, okay, I can get behind this.
Yeah, like how old? It's like, what, 30 years? 35?
At least, from the 80s, I think.
Jeez.
So when they get to the 40th anniversary for that thing, it's going to be nothing but Warhammer that year, right? I mean, we already get 5 of those games a year, but...
More the 40K 40th anniversary?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. If you want to send in your God Emperor tales, you can send them to podcast@nextlander.com.
That's right. Podcast@nextlander.com.
Podcast@nextlander.com. That's where the emails go. And then we read them on this here show once we gather up a few of them their emails. We also have merch is still up. You can go check that out. Post is on the Patreon. Of course, you can support us over at patreon.com/Nextlander. Find a tier that's right for you. Join everyone over there over on that $10 tier, getting ready for another Never Been a Better podcast. We got to go record that this week for December. We've got the Watchcast going on. We've just wrapped up our Star Trek back-to-back episode, and we are getting ready to record Michael Clayton.
Hell yeah, we are.
Michael Clayton. That's the one that'll go up on the $10 tier next week.
Yes.
This movie is pretty good. I've never seen it.
And the whole schedule for the Watchcast for the month of December will be up on the Patreon the day this goes live for everyone.
Nice. And just a reminder that Watchcast is not we sit and watch the movie. We have watched the movie.
Yeah.
And we talk about
We're having a convo
about the movie. If you missed it, the Ramblecast this week had one Patrick Klepek talking about giant skeletons on his front lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And not just any giant skeleton. His giant skeleton.
His giant skeleton. Well,
Mr. Bones.
Not his inside giant skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
So you can catch that on the Ramblecast this week. On Monday, Brad and I got into some AI art generation stuff and went back to Hunt Showdown.
It's only the hottest competitive games around here.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, went out on top.
Hunt Showdown, still pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Pretty good stuff. We've got a grab bag coming up on Thursday and a Patron's Choice on Friday. If you want to go vote and you're in the appropriate tier over on that Patreon, go vote now. Do we know who's in the lead on the Patreon last we looked?
I think Truck Simulator is currently the lead.
Oh,
I haven't looked today, but Truck Simulator was massively in the lead, which is not what I expected. But
okay. We'll do some trucking maybe on Friday here.
Maybe you want to get in there too, Vinny, and we can convoy up.
Convoy. I got a racing wheel. We might
also need to buy some DLC if we do that.
Oh boy, I have so much of it already.
There's more.
There's always more.
They added Montana. They added Texas.
I can't remember. Is it native co-op or do we have to do a third-party thing?
There's like a online, like I can host an instance, and I think you can have like a limited number of players in there.
Natively, or is it like a third-party thing?
I don't
remember.
I think it's their servers.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Check all that stuff out coming out this week. Again, details over on the Patreon where you can find the tiers that support us and keep us going. All of this that you hear and you listen to and you see can't do it without you over there at patreon.com/Nextlander. There is one tier, the Mysterious Benefactor tier, that gets their names read on this here show. Alex Navarro. Can you read for the fine listeners out there this week's Mysterious Benefactors?
I sure can. This week's Mysterious Benefactors are John Richardson, Vornak, Vinny's Giant Booga Boogas, Kelly F., James Smith, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Brad's Midsize Hoodoo Voodoo, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, JM, Jerry Lee, Gary Pesky, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Bunny Thorpe Couch Sleep Crimes, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Razgriz 2, Brian Murphy, Trevor and Adrian R., Kevin Villado, Randy Duax, Andrew Teepkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Cheek, Andrew Slosky, Michael Jonathan Black, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Those are our Mysterious Benefactors for this week. Thank you to everyone who has supported us. Thank you to our Mysterious Benefactors. Thank you to everyone who has watched or listened or spread the good word, is out there wearing a Nextlander hat. Once again, cannot do it. Just can't do it. It's just a fact.
It's not just a catchy tagline.
So we had to turn down $70 billion from Microsoft because we wanted to be here for you. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people thought it would consolidate the industry too much. A lot of people said it's not fair for Nextlander, the dominating force in the video games coverage industry, to be consolidated with Microsoft.
Can't have this much podcasting power under one roof.
Just can't have it. So now we rely on you fine folks who are listening out there. These are the choices we made. We hope you make the right choices too. Thanks everybody for supporting us. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Thanks Alex Navarro. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks Brad Shoemaker. We'll be back next week with another Nextlander podcast. See ya.